How do I deal with pain? Man, I've been having uh, reoccurring headaches for probably 12 years now, maybe since shoot, like 2015, 2016. And the reason why I'm talking about it now, because I actually have a headache like since this morning. I've been staying up late for the last few days, been working a lot. Um, Again, these YouTube videos have been really wonderful, kind of therapeutic, kind of get my mind right. Yesterday, I can only do like a short video, for instance, just because I had a lot of work. And so I thought like I should talk about this a bit more. In fact, I was planning on doing another video today. I was excited to do it, but then I was just like, oh my gosh, my head. And I still got a couple things to do and some work to get done. And probably after this video, I'll probably lay down for a little bit. And the reason why I'm even doing it now is because I don't feel too bad. And my iPad pen was running out of battery. So I was like, oh, let me just charge it for a second. And I'll just do this video. So anyway, why am I showing these two pieces of paintings? Well, I wanted to show you guys these because there was another moment in my life where I had a severe accident. In fact, my hands got eviscerated pretty badly, my dominant drawing hand specifically, which is my right hand. And I couldn't really draw with it for about 2 to 3 weeks. And what I ended up doing was started to draw with my offhand, my left hand. And these are the two paintings that I did on my iPad using my left hand. And what I wanted to do is just show you this, and then I'm going to start painting. Or I'm actually going to paint on top of these. Going to convert this into a entirely different painting. But I wanted to show you this stuff because I thought it'd be fascinating. And these didn't take me any longer than it would have taken me with my right hand. To give you some perspective, it took like hold on, I'm trying to think what I'm gonna do here. Just realized there's still noise on this image. Okay, let me just get rid of this actually. Let me just do this. What the? Why isn't that button working? Okay, whatever. Um, so when I was in that moment where I had to like draw my left hand, what was fascinating is that these didn't take me any longer than I normally would have taken me if I would have done my right hand, give or take like 30, 40 minutes. So like something like this I could probably do in less than now, probably like 20 to 30 minutes, my right hand. The one on the left and the one on the right, maybe like 30, 40 minutes. But it took me, the one on the left, about 40 to 50 minutes, if I remember correctly. And then this one took me about an hour 15. All of my left hand. And it took me about a few days. It didn't take long. It took like 2 or 3 days. And I remember there was a time where I was doing a workshop in Spain and I had a young artist talk to me about her pain that she had. Um, she had this really severe pain whenever she was sit and draw for too long. And um, she was wondering like how to like overcome that. And that she knew she had to build a portfolio, but she wasn't sure how to build a portfolio if she was always kind of feeling a lot of pain after a few hours of drawing. And I told her, first thing I told her was like, well, obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you any meaningful advice that I think you can just just use, you know. But what I can say is about like adapting to your circumstances. Because I was telling her about my headaches, and at the time, I think I still had them, and I was telling her how like I just dealt with that, and I told her too there was a time where I was feeling this really sharp pains in my wrist. I was getting like essentially carpal tunnel, and how I overcame that And I saw some comments the other day where people were asking about this too. So I was just like, oh, maybe today's the day. Now that I'm feeling the pain, how I'm dealing with it. And when I told her the story, I was like, listen, if this is just your circumstance, it's just your circumstance. Like, there's no reason to not take it seriously. Like, this is just the life that you have, and it's unfortunate. But what if you consider a couple things differently? One, like try drawing with your other hand a little bit more, you know? And she's like, well, I'll be terrible drawing my left hand. I think she was also right-handed. And I said, yeah, that's fine. But you're dealing with this pain. You definitely need to take breaks. So maybe you can draw with your left hand, so that way you don't stop drawing. If you do take breaks, then obviously you'll be okay. Like if you take a couple hour breaks and then come back to drawing, that sounds great to me as well. There's no reason why you ought to go all in on drawing every single day hardcore when you can take a little bit more breaks. But if you feel the need to draw a little bit more and you want to overcome this pain, then you definitely need to find times to give your right arm or right hand a break. And so why don't you try learning how to draw with your left hand? Like, especially if you start to have something that's a little bit more terminal and it seems that this pain will never go away, then you might want to ultimately find an alternative solution. There was an artist named Frank Frazetta, a classic fantasy illustrator, who had a stroke, and he ended up learning how to draw with his opposing hand in a matter of a month. And I think in that time, not only was he able to draw and paint just as good as he did with his dominant hand, arguably it was better. And I think I heard stories where he described it as like it was like he was learning how to be an artist again, and he had a lot of opportunities to kind of correct some habits that he had, like indirectly, garnered from just drawing with that hand all the time. So I thought that was fascinating. Anyway, so I tell her the story just like I told you guys, and she's just not convinced. So I'm like, okay, well, like, do you have a sketchbook? Or do you have like something to draw with? And she said, yeah, yeah, yeah. So she pulls up, I think it was an iPad. She pulls up something. We make a new file or whatever it might have been. I don't remember exactly what it was. And she begins to watch me draw my left hand. And I said, look, this is not that great, but let me analyze what I could have done differently. And I walk through. I was like, if I just steady my hand, if I think about the line more, like I don't have that instinct that I do with my right hand. So let me kind of draw with my right hand, just see how my right hand is handling this and observe, and then just kind of replicate it with my left hand. And I did that, and then I said, well, why don't you try now? Like, why don't you try drawing with your left hand? And she's just like, I can't. And I said, well, I know. Like, we both agree that this is not going to be easy, but give it a shot. So she did. She started to draw like a simple shape with her left hand, and it was incredibly, sketchy and just really lacked skill, but that was to be expected. So she started getting like kind of worked up. She's like, see, I can't do it. Like, this is so bad. And I'm like, yeah. We already accepted that this is going to happen. That's not the thing that we're covering here. What we're talking about here is going to be about, can you overcome this? So let's try it again. Let's observe, just like you saw me observe, and tell me what you could have done differently. And then we'll go from there. And she said, okay. So she started kind of analyzing what she could have done. And she said, yeah, if I would have done this, if I would have done that, like maybe it would have been better. And I said, okay, great. So do that now. Try what you think you could have done better. Do it now. Let's see it. And so she begins to implement this new workflow based off of her own feedback, drawing with her left hand. And it was a little bit better. And I said, yeah, look, you're doing it. Like, this is getting better. She's like, yeah, this is a little bit better. And I said, okay, let's do it again. Like, what could you have done to make it even better, you know? And she does it again, and sure enough, it gets a little bit better with every new attempt. I think some attempts weren't quote unquote better, but with every new approach, with every new sketch, it was getting closer. If she made a mistake, she was analyzing and correcting. And I said, okay, great, keep going. And I told her, I was like, look, the workshop is a few day workshop. I'll be here tomorrow, obviously, because I'm part of this event. Um, just come find me, but do me a favor and just fill up this page of these types of abstract drawings to kind of get your draftsmanship back up. And she said, okay. So the next day she shows me what she did. Very excited because it was getting better. And I thought that was wonderful. And so here I am, my hands bleeding out from this crazy accident I had. Couldn't draw my right hand. And now I was confronted with the same conundrum. And honestly, it was fine because there was no sign that I wouldn't be able to use my hand again. The doctors were like, yeah, you'll be fine. We'll just stitch it up. It's going to be okay. And I said, okay, cool. But just the thought about how I could have lost my hand that easily in this accident made me think, well, let me kind of, as a thought experiment, because it was only going to be like a couple of weeks. It's like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll be back to normal. And I think in that time, I actually was back to normal in less than that time. I think it was like a week and a half, maybe. It didn't, like, my hand was still recovering in that time, but what was available was like I could like hold a pencil and move it. Like I didn't need to do anything rigorous, you know? So I was able to kind of like actually still work with no consequence in moments, you know? And to be honest, I probably could have done it literally the day of the accident. Like I didn't have to move my hand that much, and I'm a pretty light-handed drawer now. Anyway, so I put myself into this world of like, can I switch if I had to? And the answer is yeah, absolutely. Which only proved to me what I always felt was true, at least about myself, which is my resolve to essentially change everything about how I do something to account for this new challenge in my life. You know, if I would have had that challenge again, I didn't. But it was just this idea of what if. And so for me, having this perpetual headaches, I've also just adapted. There have been times though when I would have no headache at all. Like I slept really good, or maybe I took some pain medication one time, and I felt great. And the contrast of how that felt to how I normally feel was wild, and it always makes me want to chase that feeling. You know, I'm always like, damn, I wish I could have been not in pain for most of this time. But made me realize that I've adapted to this. What I do normally is I take a lot of breaks. I like, after 30, 40 minutes of working, I usually will get up and do something. I will lay down often because I just can't deal with it sometimes. So I'll just sit down or something like this. I also work out pretty consistently. Activity of any kind actually helps me out. I don't feel much of it, especially when I'm lifting weights. I don't feel any headache. And I think it's because my mind is focused on the task at hand. That makes sense. Like, it's just like, all right, we're about to lift some heavy weights. Like, we don't need to be worried about what's going on in the brain. It's never that bad. It's just like this kind of dull feeling all the time, every day. And yeah, I just adapted, you know? My late friend Rob, when he was really sick, he messaged me about this. He's like, "How do you deal with being in perpetual pain?" And at the time, I was just like, "Yours is different, though. Yours, like, I actually would be okay if you just completely, um, adjusted to this new way of living because of how challenging it is compared to just having a headache all the time." But he was such a nice guy. He was always empathetic of what I was going through, and he's like, "No, like, I think that's just something you could teach me, and maybe I can work around." And I told him what I did. I just overcame it by accepting it, you know, like not expecting that it will ever get better. It's pretty frustrating and depressing kind of feeling to think about, but that's the catch. Like, just try not to worry about it. And again, I was pretty candid. I was like, I think yours is different, though. I don't know if this is going to be as useful of advice for someone like you, like someone who's going through your kind of pain and struggle. But he did. I mean, as far as I can remember, before his passing, he was still out there trying to draw and work and dealing with all this pain still. And I was like, damn, fucking what a champion, you know? And I remember hearing about a prolific artist named Frank Sai who also passed away. He, um, I think, became entirely paralyzed and was not able to do anything um, with art anymore, except he could. He was given this opportunity to work with this technology that allowed people to draw with their eyeballs, and that was incredible. And so when I hear stories like this, and I experience stuff myself, and I have personal encounters with close friends of mine, I have many people who have different ailments and struggles. It is one of those things that I sympathize for to my fellow artists who run into the same problem. And no pain is made equal. If you have pain that is truly not of this world, I really can't sit here and be like, yeah, just fucking suck it up. I'm trying to say, you know, if there is a way to find a way to make things work, absolutely aim for that. But if not, that's okay too, man. We get it. And we're here to support you and figure out how to solve the problem in some alternative ways, auxiliary ways that make sense for you and your circumstances. And I just want to be clear, man. Like, I think that there's a lot of types of injuries and pain that can potentially be overcome with some, physical therapy, some attention to it, and some ability to kind of overcome it. I know for instance, my headaches, I still try to figure out something to do. But the days that I have to just do stuff, I just kind of recognize that it's just what it's going to be like for a few days. Like, my headaches are back. Oh shit, just gonna have to deal with them. I will say that one of the biggest factors that seems to be the most meaningful, but I don't know if it's going to be applicable to many of you, it's just like diet. Like, eat the foods that I eat have clearly have some effect on how I feel, like whether it's going to be worse or better. I think yesterday I didn't eat good at all, and I'm thinking that's why I have such a bad headache today. Um, I've been eating pretty good for the last uh, few months, and then just like yesterday, and then the weekend, I was eating just kind of dumpster food. Not dumpster food. It was just good. It was good food. It was delicious, but it was like the kind of food you can only have that you should only have every once in a while. Anyway, long story short, eating well helps me a lot. And for those of you who have some more like softer pains, or rather more localized pain, like if you have something that commonly affects artists, like if you are encountering wrist pain or carpal tunnel of any kind, I think with carpal tunnel specifically for me, diet had a huge part. I think if you reduce your saturated fats and cholesterol to not being too much. For whatever reason, that helps. And if you also just have like pain that doesn't necessarily come from carpal tunnel, it's just pain. This could be a contributing factor of you pushing too hard on your Wacom pen or your tablet or whatever you're drawing on. You're just too heavy-handed. And because you're putting such constant rigidity to your wrist and to your fingers for hours on end, like it just will create pain. You need to find ways to limit that amount of pressure. What I would commonly tell people to do is like go to their pen pressure settings, and there's like this kind of graph, right? And then you can like Bezier it, so it's like more of like a curve, which makes it ramp up in sensitivity the lighter you push on it, not the harder you push on it, so that it almost demands that you push lightly. Like you are essentially putting a handicap on your pen pressure to make it more light-handed by design. Meaning, if you push hard, it will automatically be fully opaque. So you have to push a little softer. Being more soft-handed is the way to go. I'm relatively soft-handed, so and I wasn't always. I started to do this because it just is much more effective to paint for longer periods of time, and I've just acquired this like softer hand approach from just painting for so long, for so many years, you know. And so I got this ability just out of proxy of painting all the time, and having just a little bit more pen pressure control. But anyway, hope this gives you guys some insight. I'm feeling super drowsy now. I think I just need to sleep. I think that's probably mainly my headache. It's like the food I ate to the lack of sleep. I think it's a combination of all this stuff. But anyway, yeah, let's put some stuff there. All right, cool. Let me do a couple more things just to make this feel that much more interesting. I've been looking at like some old classic concept art, and part of me is like, yeah, them be the good old days when people used to paint and draw this way. So not like the way I'm painting now, but just like I just was reminded of this as soon as I started coming back to this, of like scribbling in details, you know, like a lot of artists in the past used to do. I like that aesthetic a lot, but it made me think like how I should have done that a little bit more for this piece, but it's okay. I don't think I need to get that hardwired in there. Oh man, I think this was fine without all this extra dreadlocky looking back headdress, but the proportions definitely look weird to me. Yeah, let me create a little bit more intrigue. Looks like it could be like some sort of weird alien flying this thing. Then again, the proportions. This should be okay. Okay. I need to rest. We'll keep this ambiguous. Let people's imagination run wild, run amok. Or not. Maybe I'll just keep painting on this silently as I deal with the pain in my brain. Nope, I'm done. I apologize if I feel a little bit more lethargic. It's because of the pain. But hey, I got my daily video done for today. Feel good about that. Now let's just make it a helmet. I was never intending for that to be a alien head. And if I want to make that correction, it's going to take a little bit more work than just me trying to put it in real quickly. And I do not want to do that. So we'll just call as we see them. Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed the demo and talk. And for those of you, again, dealing with chronic pain, I feel for you. And I appreciate you. Hopefully we can overcome it together. See you guys on the other side. Laters.